Good evening, this is Hound Dog Steve coming to you on the 28th of December. And I'd like to thank you all for joining me this evening and welcome if you're a new subscriber. And this is an ongoing conversation, just to put it into context, about the Yellow Vest protests, which are not only in Paris or France now, they are spreading from Europe and to the rest of the world. And so this is an important situation, it's a juncture, it's a crossroads, I believe, in European history, and it's something that we all really need to pay attention to. And so here we are, we're not even out of the old year of 2018, and already you can see by speeches by Macron, President Emmanuel Macron of France, and Angela Merkel of Germany, the direction of Europe, the direction that the two lead countries, and there's no doubt about it, Germany and France are the lead countries in Europe. They're the most powerful, they have the strongest currencies, and they basically call all of the shots for all of the other countries. But just hold on a second, maybe that's coming to an end. Emmanuel Macron is facing increasing resistance in his own country. His popularity in polls has plummeted. It ranges from 18% to 23%. This is the lowest that any French president has been. Even Monsieur Hollande didn't reach the depths of 23%. He is receiving public hostility, not only from the public, but from the police as well. And no doubt if the police are going against Macron, the armed forces will. I did a little piece the other day about 11 generals that have warned Macron that if he signs the immigration pact, he could be tried for treason. So things are looking pretty grim in France. And then out comes Angela Merkel with the speech to end all speeches, basically insisting that all countries and their governments give up sovereignty and they should stand in lockstep against their citizenry in these matters. Well, I would like to remind Angela Merkel that if you were to take all of the government forces in Europe, let's say 1 million, okay, let's be generous, 1 million police, troops and other reserve forces that can be called up in an emergency situation. Well, there are 300 million people in Europe. That's an awful lot of the public to be trying to lord it over. And this will end badly, I can absolutely assure you. And experts are now openly warning of a collapse in Europe. Okay, so I want to go across to some of these stories on the computer, and then we'll come back and we'll wrap up. Okay, so let's take a little look. Okay, so here we go from Zero Hedge. Angela Merkel, nation states must give up sovereignty to New World Order. Nation states must today be prepared to give up their sovereignty, according to German Chancellor Angela Merkel, who told an audience in Berlin that sovereign nation states must not listen to the will of their citizens when it comes to questions of immigration, borders, or even sovereignty. No, this wasn't something Adolf Hitler said many decades ago. This is what German Chancellor Angela Merkel told attendants at an event by the Konrad Adenauer Foundation in Berlin. Merkel has announced that she won't seek re-election in 2021, and it is clear she's attempting to push the globalist agenda to its disturbing conclusion before she stands down. In an orderly fashion, of course, Merkel joked, attempting to lighten the mood. But Merkel has always had a tin ear for comedy, and she soon launched into the dark speech condemning those in her own party who think Germany should have listened to the will of its citizens and refused to sign the controversial UN Migration Pact. They were politicians who believed that they could decide when these arguments are no longer valid because they are representing the people. But the people are individuals who are living in a country. They are not a group who define themselves as the German people, she stressed. Merkel has previously accused critics of the UN Global Compact of safe and orderly migration of not being patriotic, saying that is not patriotism because patriotism is when you include others in German interests and accept win-win situations. Her words echo recent comments by the deeply unpopular French President Emmanuel Macron, who stated in a Remembrance Day speech that patriotism is the exact opposite of nationalism, because nationalism is treason. The French president's words were deeply unpopular with the French population, and his approval rating nosedived even further after the comments. Macron, whose lack of leadership is proving unable to deal with growing protests in France, told the Bundestag that France and Germany should be at the centre of the emerging new world order. The Franco-German couple has the obligation not to let the world slip into chaos and to guide it on the road to peace. Europe must be stronger and win more sovereignty, he went on to demand, just like Merkel, that EU member states surrender national sovereignty to Brussels over foreign affairs, migration and development, as well as giving an increasing part of our budgets and even fiscal resources. No, thank you. No, thank you. Express. Macron's popularity at lowest ever. French president's support hits rock bottom. Poll. French President Emmanuel Macron's popularity has reached a record low following the resignation of a popular minister and a summer scandal involving his former senior bodyguard, a new poll has revealed. Okay, so here is the Express. EU on the brink. Top Brussels official Tusk warns of very serious Polexit threat. Poland is close to crashing out of the European Union because of its ongoing conflict with Brussels over rule of law. Oh, how interesting. Rule of law. Because Brussels doesn't like the rule of law, and the people do, according to the bloc's most senior official, Donald Tusk. The European Council President insisted there is a very serious threat that Polexit could happen by accident if the country's leaders continue to row with EU bosses. Again from the Express, EU to implode. Bloc must change now after one of its worst years in history. Experts. The European Union has suffered one of the most disastrous years in its history and must change immediately to avoid sinking into further political and democratic despair. That is the view of many experts speaking to the Express, who gave their views on what has been a chaotic 12 months for the EU. The European Union has found itself plunged into chaos as governments throughout the continent tear themselves apart amid crises at home and wave of no-confidence votes. Prime Minister Theresa May's leadership hangs by a thread, despite her victory in the no-confidence vote triggered against her earlier this month. Two of EU's major figureheads, Emmanuel Macron and Angela Merkel, have encountered arguably disastrous years and have seen their popularity ratings among voters sink to record lows. And now the Yellow Vest protest became a symbol of protest beyond France. It started on 10th of October with a Facebook appeal launched by two fed-up truck drivers from the Seine-et-Marne department east of Paris, calling for a national blockade of France's road network in protest against rising fuel prices. Within days, the campaign had gathered 200,000 backers and spawned hundreds of local spin-offs across the country. 2 weeks later, a video urging motorists to display their high-vis yellow vests behind their windscreen in solidarity garnered 4 million views. The Gilets jaunes, named after the vests drivers are required to carry in their vehicles, was born, and since November the 17th, the movement's first nationwide day of action, it sustained sometimes violent protests that have rocked France. But not only France. Mostly leaderless, unstructured and organised on social media, Yellow Vest demonstrations have multiplied internationally from Belgium to Bulgaria, Serbia to Sweden, and Israel to Iraq. The popular anti-establishment insurrection by France's squeezed middle, living mostly in rural or deindustrialized areas and small or medium-sized towns far from the globalized cities where the wealth of the 21st century is increasingly concentrated, has found a global echo. As in France, where it is overwhelming public support, these diverse national movements have brought together people with disparate demands and political views, but one overriding and common complaint: they cannot make ends meet. So as I say, these protests are not going to end any time soon. This was on 21st of December 2018. So I think you can see that 2019 is going to be what I consider the perfect storm for Europe. there is going to be social unrest, there is going to be financial unrest and economic difficulties, and there is also going to be political unrest within the government as the government starts to divide into factions. And that's what's going to happen. You're going to find half the government is going to go with the people who want to leave the EU and are anti-EU because they see that there is political gain to be made on that side of the table. And conversely, there are people who are going to politicians, who are going to side with the EU staying together kind of side because there is political gain on that side as well. So this division is not going to go well. And of course the other thing which I think is really going to hammer Europe, I think you're going to see in 2019 March there will be a hard exit for Britain. And I think that that is what Europe is actually scared to death of, is that there is a completely unregulated split of Britain from Europe. Because what is going to happen is that Britain is going to need things. It's going to need steel, it is going to need food, it is going to need other raw materials that it's going to have to import. And you know what they're going to do? Those factories, those manufacturers that need these raw materials, they're going to pick up the phone and go, okay, you got some coal, you got some iron, you got some steel, okay, how much you got? And the price is, okay, ship it, the check's in the mail. Good, thank you very much, have a nice day, bye. And everybody, every European country in the world is going to suddenly see how easy it is to bypass all of these complicated TPP, CETA, Canada-China, FIPA kind of deals, because we just don't need them. We just don't need them. These things suit the big corporations and destroy mom and pop stores or small to medium sized industries because they just regulate them to death. And actually what I'm going to do, I will leave in the description below the movie Brexit, or Brexit the Movie actually it's called, and you will see many people don't realize, they do not realize how the EU operates and what a bureaucratic disaster it will be for the world. And you know what Angela Merkel is actually essentially asking us to do is hand over everything, all responsibility, to the government. And I would ask any one of you out there to think about every single thing that you can think of that the government has had a hand in. And I think you'll find that you'll agree with me that every single thing has been an unmitigated disaster. The government is a place where ideas go to die. It's a place where ideas go to get chewed up through the meat grinder called the bureaucracy, through the committee process, and of course that's where we get the joke, a camel is a horse designed by a committee. So there you go, that's my thought. I really have very little faith in the government and the bureaucrats to take our best interests to heart and act in our best interests. And remember, once you've given up that sovereignty, you won't be getting it back. Trust me on that one. You can take that to the bank. Okie dokie, so this is Hound Dog Steve signing off. Please, if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe below. And once again, thank you all for joining me. And we will talk very, very soon. You take care, have a great evening, and we'll see you. Bye now.